The Celestial Empire, or Points and Pickings of Information about China and the Chinese, by George Mogridge. Chapter 27. Something about punishments, melodies, and medicine. To expect that between 300 and 400 millions of people, even the most civilized on the earth, could be kept in order without punishment would be somewhat unreasonable. But to entertain any hope that such a number of semi-barbarians could be repressed without some provision being made to punish their outbreaks would be still more visionary. Tao Quang, the father of his people, at the head of such a hopeful family, no doubt lays his account in being called upon to order, now and then, a little salutary chastisement. The punishments of China are not light, but they are often in description much overdrawn and caricatured. It is possible that you may have seen some of the rice paper drawings executed by Chinese artists wherein culprits are represented as undergoing horrible tortures and punishments, the most barbarous instruments of cruelty being used. These are, to a great extent, monstrous productions wherein the truth is most extravagantly distorted. Whether the object of the mandarins in encouraging these outrageous libels on the character of the empire be to frighten the people or to alarm foreigners, I cannot say. But certain it is that, for the most part, these punishments take place on rice paper only. In uncommon cases, punishments are very heavy, as they are even in European countries, nor can we dispute the truth that the Chinese are habitually unfeeling and cruel. But that is no reason why they should be misrepresented. Foreigners buy up these pictures of imaginary horror, too ready to believe them copied from the life, and thus unfounded tales of terror get abroad. The most common punishments in China are those of the bamboo, the cank, the cage or imprisonment, banishment and death. I will rapidly describe them all. No sooner is the sentence pronounced by the magistrate against a culprit for a trifling crime than a number of bamboo slips are taken by the latter from a jar well supplied with them, standing on the table before him. These being flung on the ground make known to the executioner the number of blows to be inflicted. To work he goes at once with his bamboo unless the prisoner is refractory. In the latter case, he seizes the culprit's long tail, wraps it a few times round his hand or wrist, and placing his victim on his face on the ground, gives him his number of blows. This bambooing, belaboring, or bastinadoing is no trifling affair to him who endures it. For the bamboo is a piece of wood thin at the end by which it is held, and flat and thick at the other. The pain inflicted is very great, and for this fatherly correction the culprit has humbly to thank his judge, after which ceremony he walks away. In most cases, when an offender has money, he can lessen his punishment by payment of a certain sum. The rich as well as the poor are liable to the discipline of the bamboo, but their money protects the former from its rigorous application. If you have ever seen a man in the pillory, you will be the better able to understand the punishment of the kang. Many a haughty mandarin has been bowed down by the weight of this calamity. The kang is composed of thick, heavy pieces of board, nearly 3 feet long and as much broad, having a hole in the middle large enough to admit the neck of the culprit. It has also 2 smaller holes to receive his hands, though frequently one hand is left at liberty. The weight of this portable pillory is in proportion to the crime of the delinquent, varying from 20 or 30 pounds to 2 or 3 hundredweight. Fancy yourselves for a moment sitting or standing with such an unaccommodating collar as this round your necks, with a strip of paper pasted on the machine each side of the face, recording your name and your offense. This punishment to a poor man is less than to a rich one, for the shame and disgrace felt by a haughty mandarin to be thus subjected to the gaze and derision of the common people in the very neighborhood of his abode, without the power of hiding his face or even of holding down his head, must make him writhe indeed. The kang is worn for a short or long period according to the guilt of the offender, and many have to endure it for the term of their natural lives, regarding it as an indulgence and proof of clemency on the part of the emperor in sparing them. To me, the cage or dungeon in which prisoners who have committed capital offences are often confined is horrible. I said a little about this when I told you of Ningpo, where Mrs. Noble was confined, as well as Scott and Lieutenant Douglas. The Chinese call these cages Tai Yo, meaning Hades or Hell, which shows their hateful opinion of them. To be cooped up in a cage in a form like that of a fowl trussed for the spit, having room neither to stand, sit, nor lie down, must be horrible. In these cages, many are left neglected till disease and insanity overtake them, or till death puts an end to their dreadful captivity. Give me the kang any day, beard as it is, rather than the cage. The object in confining culprits in cages appears to be the advantage of removing them from place to place at pleasure, and of exposing them to the derision of the multitude. As Chinamen are not a whit less fond of money than Europeans, so it follows that they gripe it quite as hard. To be compelled then to part with it is a sad trouble to them. If a spendthrift commits an offence for which he is subject to punishment, he willingly parts with his pelf to screen himself from pain. But if a miser be in the same situation, he will endure the bamboo rather than lose his beloved money. He would rather be squeezed in his body than squeezed in his purse. When I said that many of the rice paper drawings of Chinamen being punished and put to the torture were overdrawn, I did not mean to imply that there were no private instances of horrible cruelty and no dreadful instruments of torture used, for no doubt such instruments are employed and such cruelties are practiced, but not commonly. In cases of rebellion or supposed treason, the mandarins will go all lengths to wring a confession from the wretched prisoner. They will dislocate the fingers, the wrist, the ankle bones, till they are flattened, and gash the skin and strip it off in narrow fillets. But in other cases, the customary punishments alone are resorted to. When a criminal is banished, the distance he is sent is proportioned to his crime. It may be 20 li only, or it may be a few hundred. A li is about 3 or 4 English miles. The heart of a Chinaman is knit to his home, and to be forcibly expelled from it wrings him with agony. There are desperate villains everywhere who care not where they go, but the hearts of most men yearn towards their native land. The cold country, Tartary, is an object of terror to a man living at Canton. It is by no means an uncommon thing for a traitor or a rebel to be sentenced to be cut into 10,000 pieces, though this expression must not be regarded too literally. We are told that the miserable criminal is tied fast to a stake. The skin from his forehead is torn off so as to hang over his eyes, and his body, after being slashed in different parts with a cutlass, is given over to the brutality of the gathered multitude. In China, the number of executions is fearful. The death warrants signed by the Emperor Kia King at one autumnal execution amounted to 935. But the whole number of criminals executed in Canton alone during the same year is stated by some to have been 2,000. But suppose the number to have been but 1,000. What think you of 1,000 malefactors being put to death in one city in the course of 1 year? In such a state of things, there must either be much crime in the people or little clemency in those who govern them. Mercy should be mingled with justice. O justice, justice, when thy hand severe is stayed by mercy in its stern career, the cause of meek humanity succeeds, and crime itself repents its evil deeds. At the execution of criminals in China, there are no ministers of religion to urge them to repentance, no confessions of guilt are made, and no dying speeches are published. The malefactor in sullen and gloomy silence kneels with his face towards the residence of the emperor, bending forward submissively and receiving the stroke from the sword that at once severs his head from his body. Now and then a culprit gives way to revengeful feelings, threatening the bitterest vengeance to his persecutors in another life. That is when, after the transmigration of his soul into other bodies, he shall again live in the world. In cases where children ill-use their parents, the law is very severe. As an instance of this kind, I will relate an affair that took place during the reign of the last emperor. According to the report of the Viceroy of Hukwang province, there is in the district of Hanyang, in the Hien of Hanchuan, a scholar named Ting Chin, with his wife Xiu Shi, who have beaten and disgraced their mother. I perceive that in instances of unfilial conduct, the 5 established modes of punishment are not adequate to the offence, and therefore think that the culprits should be flayed alive as a warning to all. The head of the family and the elders of the village, because they neglected to instruct them, should be punished by strangling. The neighbors to the right and left, because they did not inform, must suffer 80 strokes of the bamboo and be transported 3,000 li. The instructors or teachers, because they did not proclaim the imperial will, must suffer 60 strokes of the bamboo, kneel in the Ming Lun temple for 3 months, and afterwards be banished. The scholars of all that district for 3 years will not be permitted to attend the examinations. The magistrates of the district, because they secretly allowed of and did not punish the offence, must quit the city, be deprived of their office, and transported. And when their time is expired, be for 3 years degraded to plebeian rank. The mother of Xiu Shi, because she could not teach her daughter better, must suffer 80 strokes of the bamboo, be branded with characters descriptive of her offence, and thus made to wander about the city for 4 years, and after the expiration of that term be banished. The house in which Teng Chin dwelt is to be dug up from the foundations, both bricks and ground, to the depth of 3 feet. Teng Chin's mother to receive a monthly pension of a bag of rice and a tael of silver, to be paid her by the treasurer. Let this edict be announced to the 6 boards and forever adhered to. Let Teng Chin and his wife be taken out into the front of the district of Hanchuan, and each receive 100 slashes with a sword as a warning to all. According to this, let the viceroy and officers issue out proclamations informing of the edict, and let them be dispersed through the whole empire, that the people may know it. And if there be any obstinate unfilial children who do not obey the commands of their parents, and who speak to them with a loud voice, or beat or degrade them, they shall be punished in like manner. A parent, if he feel so disposed, may sell his children for slaves. Nay, more, if he take away their lives, the penalty he has to pay is but a small one. Death is the punishment incurred by that child who shall use harsh and abusive language to either his father, his mother, or his grandmother. You may be sure that the Chinese would heartily approve the text in the book of Proverbs that says, "The eye that mocketh at his father, and despiseth to obey his mother, the ravens of the valley shall pick it out, and the young ravens shall eat it." The melodies of the Chinese are not, perhaps, more numerous than those among other people, though some particular diseases prevail among them. The two classes into which disorders are divided by their native doctors are diseases from within and diseases occasioned by the cold. Inflamed and sore eyes, rheumatism, dropsy, leprosy, tumors, and the elephant or swollen leg are very common. In ascertaining the complaint of a patient, the rule of some Chinese physicians may be expressed in 4 words: look, listen, ask, and feel. Or if a few more words were used, it would run thus: look at the patient's countenance, mark the tone of his voice, ask him all about his malady, and finally, feel his pulse. Do not let this information tempt you to set up for physicians, for, depend upon it, though looking, listening, asking, and feeling are excellent things in connection with knowledge, experience, and skill, without these, they will do very little either for a physician or his patient. Some medical practitioners among the Chinese say, if the eye be of a red color, the disease is in the heart. If white, in the lungs. If green, in the gall. If yellow, in the spleen. If black, in the kidneys. And if a yellow color that cannot be described, in the middle of the chest. The hospital, established by the English at Canton, is likely to prove a blessing to the empire. The common people flock to it and shew how highly they estimate its advantages. 10,000 thanks are gladly proffered by them. The successful operation of couching the eyes of Ma Ze-ye, private secretary to the Chifu of the district, removing 2 cataracts from them, is spreading its fame and will no doubt influence many to seek the same relief. In the opinion of the Chinese, the mysterious power of yang, or male energy, and yin, the female energy, have a powerful influence in medicine. All medicines which are green are considered to belong to the element wood and operate on the liver. The red belong to fire and operate on the heart, the yellow to earth and operate on the stomach, the white to metal and operate on the lungs, while black medicines belong to water and operate on the kidneys. Many of the roots, such as rhubarb, that we take in powder are sold in thin plates or strips. The blood of an eel is dropped into an eye closed by the smallpox. Pitch plasters are used for rheumatism, and a belt of bamboo in the case of a broken arm is as effectual a cradle for the fractured limb as the splints which are used by a British surgeon. In some cases, needles are stuck into the flesh and allowed to remain there to produce irritation. In puncturing and scarification, the Chinese are famous, and it may be said with truth that though there are not many Abernethys and Ashley Coopers among them, the celestial doctors are thoroughgoing practitioners, being nice neither about the quantity of physic they give nor the degree of pain they inflict.